Okay, so I'm Dr. Sheila Bias, and I'm based out of Texas. I'm licensed both in Texas and Virginia. I
Okay.
launched my practice in June 2024.
Okay.
Still working for a group practice based out of Virginia, and I specialize in complex trauma and anxiety and birth trauma. Any form of trauma really, because I am such an EMDR geek and I have training for brain spotting as well. So that's another modality and skill that I
Awesome.
love to use.
Awesome. So a lot of trauma, which
Yes,
is
all the
great.
trauma.
Which is great. So, I was just kind of thinking about we met almost a year ago at this point, I think. Maybe even actually longer than that. And I'm trying to think back around that time, like before we met or kind of leading up to when we met, what do you think your biggest, I guess, challenge or fear was kind of starting your own practice? I know you had worked at a group, but I'm just
Oh
curious
my
what.
gosh, like just everything that involved launching a practice. I was so lost, even though I had colleagues that launched their
Sure.
own practices, and I would ask them questions like, hey, like, could you give me a list of the things that I need to do? And, they would kind of give me bits and pieces here and there, like, hey, do this, do this, do this, but it just never made sense to me. So I was really lost. I was just like, I don't know how to do this. I just need someone to
Sure.
guide me and
Sure.
support me through this journey.
No, that makes sense. I think I'm with you on that. And I think even for me, I think of it on, I can ask 100 people, I can be on YouTube, I can be on Google, and I just can't start sometimes. I just need someone to
Hmm.
kind of not tell me what to do, but like keep me accountable and show me, I know it's corny, like
Yes,
a roadmap to get there versus
exactly.
looking at 1,000 pieces. Would you say the roadmap, like, I'm trying to think of like, were you overwhelmed, stuck, fearful? Like, what were you thinking, like, kind of your mindset before starting, but wanting to start was at the time?
Prior, oh my gosh, I was like really overwhelmed, super
Okay.
overwhelmed.
Okay.
I couldn't even like, even if I had a roadmap in front of me because of
Okay.
that accountability piece. And I think
Okay.
what was helpful was just, okay, we're meeting every week and you're keeping me on track. Like, hey, these are the things that I want you to do. Here's a checklist. And I would do it. But
Yeah.
I
You wouldn't
didn't
do it to your,
have,
I am.
no, I wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't.
I get it. I get it. It's funny. I think about some of the other courses that are like self-paced, and I think some of them are really good, but I know personally I wouldn't do them. Like I just know that I need someone with me doing them.
Same.
And checking in and asking questions, but not being on like
Mhm.
Dr. Google.
Right.
Yeah. I don't actually know the answer to this one. Did you always want to start a practice? Was that your ultimate goal in starting going to school, or
So
what were you kind of thinking?
initially, no.
Okay.
Once I started
Really?
working for the group practice, well, the private
Okay.
practice in Virginia, because back then it was just a small private practice. It was just the director and then myself. And now she's
Oh
grown
wow.
tremendously. But
Yeah.
back then I was just like, oh my gosh, like, how do you even manage all of this? Like,
Okay.
this is so much. I could never. And I just thought, like, oh my gosh, your taxes must be crazy. But then out of nowhere, I was just like, I think I can do this.
Hmm. Why or when do you think that happened? The shift for you? Like I know there was a lot of fear and overwhelm to do it, right? But like where do you think or why do you think that mind shift happened of like, what, I think I can figure this out.
I think once I was getting closer to being independently licensed and I started to really like do the math in my head and like,
Okay.
oh, okay, so I see how much I could be earning and how much less time I essentially should be spending in my office and having more time
Got
with
it.
my family.
Totally.
Then when I kind of had a really nice idea of what that looked like, then I think that was like my motivator.
That makes total sense. I mean, I know we worked together for almost, I think like actually 14, 15 weeks if I look back at the time, but what were some steps kind of in working together, whether it was like the marketing component, the business, the finances, or neither and none of those, like that really stood out to you as like significant steps in your like journey, would you say? Or that's, I guess, stood out to you? Because some people will say the business stuff and not the marketing. And I'm thinking to myself, you're going to say marketing, right? And I'm just curious what really stood out to you as, yeah, like had an imprint or you remember really needing the support or
Definitely the marketing
really?
because,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I don't know if you remember, but I was just like really nervous to do any networking whatsoever. I was
I
just
do.
like, yeah, no, I'd rather just like post this over here and people will come. No, it doesn't happen. Like you really have to get out there and do the work.
I do remember. I remember I made like a spreadsheet for you of like people to reach
Hmm.
out to and how you do it. And I think my surface level would call it resistance, but really what's underneath that is fear, right? Like if I'm,
Yes.
and I was like, oh, you're scared, like you're nervous, you're shy, you're uncomfortable, like
Hmm.
all those layers in there. And I'm like, I get it. And like, these are your people. Like, you got to find
Yeah.
them. And like, to think about that. And I know before we started like recording it, you were just saying how honestly, it's like night and day from that. I know you're still nervous and fearful. I don't want to like minimize that, but
Right.
you are working with like a birth center at this point. So
I am.
what do you think that was like to do? I know to reach out to them knowing a year and a half before it would have been like, no, people have to come to me, right? So like, do you think you just kind of pushed yourself through? Like, what were the steps to get there to feel?
Yeah, I mean, I think I had to find that inner motivation and ask myself, okay, well, am I just gonna allow this to, like, I'm a business owner. Like, my business needs to thrive. And if I want it to
Absolutely.
thrive, I have to get my butt out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And knowing that you did get your butt out there, how do you feel with this like birthing center you've like developed a, I guess, relationship with would be the best? Like, how do you feel since?
I absolutely love collaborating with them. And
Okay,
even, I show up and their little community is so warm and nice and inviting. And
sure.
it just
Mm,
feels really good to be back in that space and
okay,
knowing that, I'm making further connections. Because even though someone in the group might not necessarily need my services, but they might know someone who does.
totally.
So it's
Totally.
always
I
good.
remember when I 100% like I used to use that example of like when you send nurturing emails, like just because I used, it's just a silly way I used to frame it, just because John gets your email doesn't mean John will ever be your client, but his friend Joanne may say that she needs a therapist and he may be like, oh, Julia
Mhm.
emailed you the other day, like me, this looks
Mhm.
like someone good for you. Like you never know who you're going to reach, even if it wasn't intentional, that reach, right? Even if it
Right.
wasn't direct, you don't know who's going to kind of come about from that. And I just think that happens more from networking than just online. I do.
Hmm.
How do you feel compared to when we first started, would you say?
I feel a little more confident.
Okay.
When we first started, I was just like a little ball of stress and I was just like, I don't know what to do. Please help me. But
Yeah,
now I'm just like, okay, well, Julia gave me the roadmap. I still have all the materials. And sometimes when I feel like I'm stuck, I'll just pull it back up and I'll read through things. And I'm like, okay, well, let me try this or let
sure,
me attempt this one more time. But I feel more confident in networking and just approaching other practices or therapists or even physicians and just letting
sure.
them know like, hey, I'm here, I'm providing these services. This is how I can support your people.
Makes sense. When we first met, I think your anxiety or your nervousness around it showed up very like black and white thinking about like this is the route I'm going to do it, this is the route I'm not going to do it. I'm like, okay, right. And I'm just thinking about like before I started recording it that you're even thinking about like opening one maybe one day in person, right? And initially it was
Hmm.
like I don't want to be in person, and then I
Yeah.
don't know about like a free consult, like all these types of things. And
Yeah.
to hear that you've really opened up or been curious is it's like night and day to me. I don't know if you feel like that or you remember that kind of part of
Oh,
you a year.
absolutely.
Okay.
I was
Okay.
literally even speaking about this with another clinician because
Really?
they reached out to me and they were like, "Hey, what is it like? Like, I'm really interested in having my own private practice. Like, what do you notice? Like, how do you attract clients?" And then we went into like, are you going to be taking insurance or are you not?
Sure, sure.
And I just let them know, like, I found out the hard way. Like, yeah, I'm not taking insurance. So it would benefit me in the long run to sacrifice those 15 minutes for a free consult because I just never know if I'm going to attract a new client or more
Absolutely.
clients because word of mouth spreads really quickly. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm flexible now.
Yeah, I know. And I get that's nerves. I completely understand that. It's just truly when I think about, oh yeah, and I hopped on a call with this consult who ended up being my client, and then
Yep.
I'm actually thinking of renting space from the birthing center. I'm like, wow, if you could look at yourself from almost 2 years ago and it was like, this is the way I'm gonna do it, you're finding paths I think that maybe you wouldn't have thought of before. I'm just really happy that you're kind of more open to it.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
When do you think things clicked for you in that way that you became more open to that? That you just were like, okay, I have to be more open?
I think it just like over the summer, as the summer continued, I mean, when it was not so spicy hot out there, then I was just like, okay, yeah, I need to get out there. I need to just do it and be
Okay.
more flexible and start accepting consults. Just start letting people know I'm here, spreading the
Absolutely.
name of the practice
Absolutely.
around. Hmm.
Absolutely. And you're in like a small enough town that, right? It's small. Like it's not,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I remember I went to the local town like town hall meeting
sure.
because my house won like a holiday contest. And I met with the chief of police and I said, "Hey, I really want to connect with you. Like I want to offer these services, some pro bono for
Sure.
the
Wow.
officers." And he's like, "I know your face. Your face is all over my office." So I
Really?
remember back in the summer, I was handing out flyers for
Wow.
the raffle, and
Hmm.
they still have my flyer up and they still have business cards. So that's nice to know.
That's kind of funny. You're like, you know my face? And he's like,
I
yeah, you're all
know,
over
it
my
was weird.
office.
I'm
But
like, what?
it is smaller town. That's what you're
Mhm.
describing in that way. Yeah. And I know you still haven't fully left the group, but how do you feel? You're almost at 10 clients, I think you were saying. Like,
Yes.
what's that like to know that you're actually bringing income in on your own
It
at this
feels so
point?
good to
Yeah.
know that, yeah, I can do this. Like, it is something that is achievable, even if I'm not taking insurance. It's going to take longer for sure, but I can do it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that people sometimes, and I get why, right? We want like a quick win, I guess, for lack of a better way
Hmm.
to do it. And I get why. And I was talking to someone actually earlier today, like super early. We were talking about how I was saying to him, I said, the program right now is 3 months, but I think it should be 6. I think it's a longer, but I think people sometimes in the beginning are too fearful to commit to 6 months, right? And
Yeah,
it is a long game. That's
yeah.
at the end of the day, you just have to be willing to stay the course and refine things that
Mhm.
work and let go of things that are not working. And you're
Yeah,
you're right. Especially if you don't want to take insurance, which is the whole point. It is a long game. It is.
right.
And have you networked with other therapists kind of local to you as well that are doing okay, cool.
Yeah,
Awesome. And does EMDR or brain spotting or both stand out in the area that you
for
are?
sure. There are a couple EMDR clinicians, but no brain spotting.
Okay. Yeah, that's a more recent one, right? Or did you do them at the same time? I can't. Okay.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, I was already certified before with EMDR before even getting brain spotting trains. But yeah,
Wow.
it's a nice
Okay.
little tool that I have in my little toolbox now, and it works really well. So
Yeah, that's great. How do you think it feels to come into your own practice, either seeing clients or leaving clients, like leaving that client, like leaving sessions? Like, I guess for me, when I first started to really see it happening, I was like, oh, this is people are seeing me, right? No one was referred
mhm.
through a group. And for me, I had a really strong, like, wow, people want to come see me and I get to set the time, the fee, the type of work I do. Like, I don't know if that's
Yeah,
something that resonates for you as well within your
it
own practice
does.
right now.
It does. It feels really nice to know that because oftentimes you think like, I don't know, this is the thought that I would have like, oh, this client has insurance. Of course they're going to show up. And if they
Hmm.
don't show up, they really don't care because they're not paying out of pocket,
Hmm.
especially if it's like Medicaid or something like that, right? They aren't paying out of pocket. It's all coming
Sure.
out of the insurance. So it could be inconsistent. However, my full fee clients in the practice, they show up and it feels
Absolutely.
so good knowing that they're showing up not only for me, but for themselves. They're doing the
Absolutely.
work, they're showing up, they're investing in themselves. And I close out my office and I'm like, damn, that felt so damn good. Like it's just a different vibe when I
Hmm.
have my own clients versus the clients that I receive from the group practice.
Makes sense. I totally get that. And I think 100%, like they're here really for me. They weren't assigned to me. They're
Hmm.
paying out of their own pocket and I'm doing work in the way I want, right? I think
Yeah.
that I don't have to write notes that insurance reimburses. I don't have to do it. Like
Yes.
I get to practice in the way that I think meets the client where they're at, which is the whole point of what we do. But
Hmm.
unfortunately, there's a lot of rules when you take insurance, which is why I think a lot of people kind of that work with me, I recommend if they can to not, because it just feels
Right.
inorganic to me. What's like something you're trying to work towards for the next year in your practice? Like, what's your, I guess, I know you used to hear me say, like, big short goal or short big goals, like I like to
Yes.
call it? Like what's something you want by the end of this year, do you think,
I
to do?
definitely want to have at least like 20
Okay.
complete clients, like, and
Okay.
that is my goal. I'm trying
Nice.
really, really hard to get there. And hopefully next year, I mean, depending on how the practice is moving, hoping to take on some like interns or residents.
Sure, sure. That makes sense. That sounds great. And I guess for a question for me is like, there's a lot of programs that are like business coaching or help therapists build a practice and stuff like that. Which I'm glad everyone resonates with something different. For lack of a non-corny way to ask, like what stood out and kind of like what this program was compared to others for you that made you feel like it was worth the investment. You can say
Aside
me, but you can say
from
not me.
No, aside from what you presented, like how you planned it out, like this is what I'm offering, it was just you. Like you were so chill and laid back. You didn't seem like salesperson-y. You weren't really pushy. You were just like, hey, this is what works, and you could do this, but this isn't going to work. This is why I have it specified like this.
Mhm.
So I love that. I appreciate that. And I just appreciate all the material that you and the resources that you provided me because they're still helpful to this day.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't want to be a salesy therapist and I don't want to be a salesy kind of like coach or consultant. And I remember at the end you were like, okay, I'm gonna think about it. And if you look at a lot of like sales books, they're like, no, you got to get an answer. And I'm like, that's not my style, right? It's just
Yeah.
not. And whatever, a week or two later, you're like, okay, let's do it. And I was like, okay, like sounds good.
Hmm.
I don't want to force you into something that doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. I'm really glad to hear that. Did you ever take any other like courses or self-paced or things for building a, if you don't mind me asking,
I
but
had attended like a couple other entrepreneur therapists were hosting like these little free type of
sure,
things and I
sure.
would attend. But yeah, it was very like sales gimmicky and I was
Mhm.
just like, and then the amount of like spam emails that I would receive immediately after, I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, how do I unsubscribe from this? Yeah, it just wasn't my jam.
No, I get that. I completely can relate to that. So to me, I think something that makes it unique compared to a lot of, so there's, I think, you've seen me talk about this. There's self-paced ones, there's coaching
Hmm.
kind of consulting, and then there's just websites, right? And I think what
Hmm.
I want to do or wanted to do and continue to want to do is to build kind of a combination of that. Did getting a website in the end stand out to you, or is that something you didn't feel at the time was important, but later realized? I'm just curious, to be honest.
Oh no, it did stand out because I mean, if you're gonna offer me, hey, we have this wonderful team here, they can, with your visions and uh, your colors and your ideas, they can create your website versus a self-paced, program where I would have to kind of launch it on my own with their own like templates. I don't have time for that.
That's
I'm not a, you know,
a
a,
website designer. Yeah,
I'm not.
I agree. And that I think the way I kind of you can meet with someone that just does like coaching and then you can meet with someone that just does website. But I always thought to myself, like, why has someone not combined them?
Hmm.
Like that's such an outlying. But I always thought it was important, and so I'm kind of just picking
Oh,
your
it
brain if you
is
thought that was something that okay.
super important.
Yeah. And your website is just like so soft and feminine and pretty. Like it really
I
is.
get
Sometimes I just
so many compliments on it. It's
really
insane. Yeah. Every time I post a link, someone always comments, I love your logo or I love your website. It's so pretty. And I'm like, thanks, but I'm awesome too.
yeah, but that it does reflect you, I think, on there. To be honest, like it is, if someone gets to know you, whether it's like a client or a friend or like you or a colleague, like it does look like you, right? That's the whole
Yeah.
point of like getting that feel for you. I really think it does. So I think that does stand out when you post your website, like for referrals and stuff like that, that
Yes.
people remember. It sounds like you, I think, is the biggest thing. What do you think, just out of curiosity, what's been your biggest source of getting clients at this point? Referrals, website, like what do you think's been working? Just, you're early in your practice.
Yeah, I think it's just like really getting my name out there, especially with the local Facebook groups. There's always like in search of posts, and I'm
Got it.
constantly commenting
Okay.
on those. So
Good, good.
that's the majority of where I have received my clients. I did have some word of mouth clients too, which is always awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And like besides obviously getting more clients and bringing in, like it sounds like you think your practice eventually turning into more of like a group or with interns. Is
A
that kind of the big
small
goal?
group,
Okay.
small, very small.
Okay. Okay. And I know this is something you felt like uncomfortable, but I've noticed you have more of a social media presence. How do you think that's been for you to kind of have more social media, like on Instagram and stuff like that?
It's still a little weird,
Sure.
but I do see the benefits because, I see people continuously follow. I'm making more connections with other clinicians, even in the state of
That's,
Texas or outside of the
yep,
state of Texas. So it's nice because eventually we might like collaborate in some way, and I think
absolutely.
it's pretty cool. Just getting our brand and our faces out there is important
Yeah.
for potential clients to find us.
For sure. And you can see the difference from your first like video to your current ones of like, and I can completely relate to that. If I look at ones from years ago, I'm like, ooh, right. But for me, but you can see your comfort has completely shifted as well in doing them.
Yeah.
I know you're still nervous. I get that. I get nervous still, but you feel closer to you in them than you did at the first ones to me.
For sure.
Is there anything about kind of like our relationship or the program? And I really appreciate that you still look at the resources. I actually have more to give you that I've been working on.
Yes.
Is there anything you want to share about it? You don't, there can be nothing. I mean, I've asked you a lot about it. And I'm just curious if something kind of that I didn't ask stands out to you or something you
I
wanted to
mean,
mention.
honestly, if there's ever anyone just kind of circling with the idea of whether or not they should complete your program or sign up for it, I think they just should just pull the trigger and do it.
Funny that
Just
that was kind of one of my
just
next
do
question of
it.
like, what would you give advice if someone were nervous to start? And you answered it, which was just do it.
Yeah, just do it. There shouldn't be any hesitation. If you truly want the support and guidance on how to launch your own private practice without having the additional stressor of doing it all on your own without any guidance and questioning yourself whether or not you are doing this correctly or who you should be reaching out to, then yeah, totally do it. I mean, your resources are phenomenal. Like I said, I
Appreciate
still
that.
review them. They're still helpful. I even like sent like copy paste certain things, especially like
Hmm.
clinicians who have a question about how do you really narrow down your niche or how do
Mm.
you attract like your clients? And I'm like, oh my gosh, did you not create an avatar?
I get it. It's so funny. Like as someone I'm actually currently working with, she had an idea of her niche, but just couldn't narrow it down. Like you were kind of the opposite, where you really knew who you wanted to work with. We more
Yes.
worked around language to talk to them,
Yes.
and like we really narrowed her niche down, and then built an avatar. So it's a
Hmm.
different path when someone is kind of unclear versus like you were like, this is the population I want. Like it made that step
Hmm.
much easier. And then I remember when we would do it and we created kind of like avatars, correct, and
Yeah.
personalities. And it really has helped. I think it sounds like you understand getting in the mind of someone that reaches out to you in that way. I completely agree.
Absolutely.
Well, I guess my question is if you would have done it on your own or self-paced, do you think you'd be where you're at right now?
Heck no. Heck no. I don't even think I would have a private practice
Really?
because
Okay.
just the amount of stress when I even thought about all the steps that needed to go into
Sure.
before launching a private practice, it was just overwhelming. Like the idea of trying to get an LLC or PLC and who to contact and the fees and having a website and developing that and what format and the language and SEO, and it's too much. It's too
Yeah.
much to even think about while trying to, have a sustainable lifestyle and
Mhm.
maintain your family and keep yourself alive. Like it's just too much. So no, I probably wouldn't even have a private
Okay.
practice.
I don't know. I'm just really happy for you. Every time I see your post, your website come up, or my emails, or I think I'm just excited for your practice to continue to
Mhm.
grow.
I mean, it wouldn't
For
have
sure.
happened without your guidance and support.
Oh
So
God. I just
a
paid you to say
lot of
that though.
it is because of you.
Thank you. Thank you. I didn't ask her to say anything. You just said it
No, you
naturally, I
didn't.
swear. I really didn't. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm excited for you.